Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Well, Happy New Year to everybody. This is the first video of the year, and we're starting off with one that has been asked for by quite a few of you out there. Now, you guys always seem to like our tier lists when me and Quinn work on them, so we've dragged him along once again. Quinn, how you doing?
And my suffering.
He loves doing them because he likes doing the alphabet game. We all know this.
Yay! That's
So, Quinn, we're going to be covering off tactics cards today, aren't we? But there are far too many tactics cards to include. And actually, there are different reasons and different times when you would and wouldn't include different types of cards, aren't they? So we've broken them down into various categories, and we are starting off with all of the affiliated tactics cards. So these are tactics cards that you can only take and use if you have that affiliation in your roster, and then indeed when you have 51% or more characters from that affiliation. So that means if you've got a squad of 6 characters, that means that 4 of those characters are going to need to be affiliated, and so on and so forth. So Quinn, let's jump over to the tier list, and because I think there's quite a few to get through, but we come up with a bit of a system, haven't we, for the various tiers. So S is for squad. So what we're saying with this one is not only are you going to include it in your roster, but it is going to be an auto include in your squad almost every single game that you're playing. A is going to be for always in your roster, so it's going to make up one of the 10 cards that you can take. B is going to be one that you should really take a look at. You should probably
it's
put it in.
basically always in your roster, but
Basically, always in your
if
roster.
you're dual affiliating, like maybe not.
Yeah. C is considered,
Yeah, like
maybe consider something else.
yeah,
Maybe consider this
it
card.
might be like a niche pick, for example, but it's still
Yeah,
something worth
yeah.
considering.
And then D is just don't.
Yeah.
We don't think it is a good enough card to include in your roster.
What's all this we think nonsense? Our word is gospel, or at least mine is.
So Quinn, starting off, then we're going to go through these in alphabetical order, guys. So that's why they're mixed up a little bit, and the reason why is when you put them into a tier maker, that's the order that they come into. So starting off, then Quinn is A Force Assemble. Obviously, the A Force card. You spend 3 power, and when an allied character is defending against an attack this round, you basically get one more attack die, don't you? For each of the A Force character within 2. Sorry, another defense die. So what's our thoughts on this one?
So like I've seen this card used to very good effect. It is sort of limited to certain map layouts, and also like it is not the best A Force card per se, in my opinion. Like I would lean towards this basically always being in your roster unless like you're dual affiliating and you need to cut something. So
Yeah,
D, honestly.
yeah, I agree. I would say it is in that about a B tier, where it's got the potential to be in there, but it could be dropped very easily if you were dual affiliated. And as we know, it's quite easy to dual affiliate with A Force as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very. I mean, almost everyone's in A Force. So.
All according to plan. Criminal Syndicate spend 10 power collectively and get priority.
So, like, this card would be incredible in any other faction, but typically, a lot of the way that CS plays, it doesn't actually want priority. Like, let's say you're evenly set up and you both have the same number of characters. CS would much rather go last than first because CS teams typically at the moment are built to take a punch, right? That's sort of their whole niche. And they sort of
But
take a punch.
but they're not the widest of teams, are they? They're not the tallest, but they're definitely not the widest.
Yeah, they sort of tread that middle ground, and there are situations where this is useful, but like typically, what is more valuable to Criminal Syndicate is having the last activation in a round and being able to displace someone off of a point that they otherwise would have scored or stopped them from scoring, right?
Okay, so maybe it is a little bit more situational then, depending on who you're...
In my mind, I feel like this is another, basically always in, but once again, it's probably one of the first things you cut if you need to, just because I think the number of affiliations that this is good into is relatively limited.
Okay, so we're saying A or B then?
I'd go with B, just because, you can very comfortably do dual affiliations with CS and, like, Cabal.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, it's very easy, and, like, Cabal may not be the best example simply because Cabal doesn't have the greatest, number of cards.
Well, they don't have a lot of tactics cards.
But, like, if you were doing something weird, like, I don't know, Criminal Syndicate Brotherhood with Juggernaut as your go-between, or something really dumb, like, it's probably one of the first things you cut.
Next up then is All Webbed Up from the Web Warriors. This is where we're obviously dishing out Slur and then getting extra dice when we are attacking into them. I see a lot of Web Warrior players use this card.
I think this is S tier. Like, I cannot think of when I've seen a good Web Warriors squad that hasn't included this card, because first of all, you're putting out slow on a bunch of people, and slow is a very underrated condition, especially when you're playing Web Warriors and you can run around and, like, sort of just, lead people around the garden path. And also, extra attack dice with, like, Web Warriors is really good. Like, you slap that shit down and you've got Moon Knight on the board, he's like a fucking full auto machine gun.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I am okay with that.
So it's S for Spider-Man.
S for Spider-Man. I think we may have found our first lower down card in anger management, the Avengers card. Any non-Hulk Avenger spend up to 5 and do that much damage to Hulk. You've been playing a lot of Hulk, Quinn, the new version of Hulk. This card wasn't good before. Has it got any better?
No. What a stupid question.
Yeah, there's no real reason to.
Yeah, we'll put them in D for don't get mad.
Don't do it. Just don't. Asteroid M. Now.
Oh, look, it's a Brotherhood card. Aren't we both Brotherhood players? Right?
We may have some level of authority on this one, Quinn. And I know for me, it is an absolute auto-include in my Brotherhood roster. However, if you're running Magneto, it's almost a guaranteed S tier.
Okay, so if you're playing Brotherhood, yeah.
No, there is another leader, and actually,
like Juggernaut.
But actually, I've been having a little bit more success with her lately, especially coming up against wider teams. But Asteroid M, I say it's going to sit somewhere in that S and A. I have been known not to take it.
I would definitely lend my weight towards S. It was in my 5 every time I played a Brotherhood game. It is never left.
I think for me, it's like 95% there. So yeah, it's probably the right place for it to be.
Brotherhood since the update, so I was playing a lot of sort of all you've got Brotherhood, which makes very good use of that card because you just sort of slap someone down in the middle of everything and just go pew 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 pew, everything's dead, and I'm also I'm going for a nap.
I think the problem with Brotherhood is that they've even taking away all you've got from them, which was a pretty auto-include card for Brotherhood players, or at least in my opinion, with alongside field dressing as your two restricted cards. They've got an abundance of tactics cards, like nearly every character in, I think with the exception of Toad, every character brings a tactics card. Like, it's crazy.
Sabretooth does have cards, but I mean, it's Sabretooth.
Oh yeah, Sabretooth's a Brotherhood character, isn't it?
I think so. I remember him being on the affiliation list.
We digress. Quinn, first of the lots of cards for Convocation is Astral Ring. And I think this is the one, isn't it, where you place a token within 3 and then everyone can, or the person that played it can then measure their attacks. Sorry, measure their superpowers and attacks from the token rather than from themselves. So
Yeah, it's a nice little range boost for a round, right?
yeah. I mean, I think for me, I'll give you my opinion first on this one, so you're not always going first. But I think for me, it's a nice one. It's definitely one that I would say is considered, but because they've got so many cards, I don't. It's not an absolute must take for them, is it? I don't think.
I don't think it's a must take by any means. I think if you're playing Convocation, it's probably in there. Um, I admittedly, I don't think either of us have played a great deal of Convocation.
Not a huge amount. No. So what are you thinking? A, or I think you're probably going to take it in with 10 cards. You're probably taking it in your 10 every time, aren't you?
I think it's A, because I think it's always in your roster simply because I haven't seen a great deal of like dual affiliating with Convocation.
Yeah, people are not tending to do that, are they? I don't think. At least not from what I've seen. Second of our web warriors, it's Aunt May's wheat cakes. Spend a power, remove the slow special condition, and remove a damage as well. So one of the very few or handful of healing cards that are unrestricted in the game. It's obviously web warriors characters only, though. What's your thoughts on it, Quinn? Is it anger management level?
I'm sure Aunt May makes some delicious wheat cakes. I don't really know what the fuck a wheat cake is.
A cake made of wheat.
I gathered that much, but I have no idea what that tastes like.
Which is flour. The thing looks like pancakes, but I don't know if they are or not. Like,
if it's pancakes, that's just a really weird name for pancakes.
It really is.
For that purpose.
So what do we think? C or D?
I would lean towards D. I think Web Warriors have quite a few good cards, and like they're probably bringing like a couple of restricted as well, and Form Brace and something else, probably Medpatch. Like I don't think there's room for wheat cakes. I'll take it out of D and I'll put it in like C.
I think you could consider it, couldn't you?
I think there is play with that card when you play into the Web Warriors mirror.
I was just going to say the mirror match. That's when it could work really well, isn't it? In that mirror match setup. Next card, Quinn, one of the OGs, and a card that I recently, Quinn, picked up a very special version of, didn't I?
Oh, don't remind me.
Which you're a little bit annoyed about. But it is Avengers Assemble. Everyone spends a power. Advance short, importantly, in any direction. If you're not taking this as Avengers, are you playing Avengers right?
Like... You even get to do the line when you play it. It's the best
Avengers!
Part. Avengers! And then
Assemble.
you assemble really quietly.
Yeah. Do you think that still applies for Hulkbuster and Sam Spam or Sam Wilson lists?
So obviously I haven't played a lot of either of those two. I am definitely a Steve main when it comes to Avengers because I mean, come on, it's Steve. But it's like. Steve. I mean, Sam Spam, I have seen make very good use of that card.
Yeah.
Like,
it just gives them even more mobility, doesn't it?
Exactly. Like, almost every character that an Avengers squad brings is an Avenger just because they hand out those ID cards like they're fucking candy on Halloween.
That's one of the things, isn't it, when it's a tactics card like this, and we'll come on to some more of them later on, but it really does not force you, but rewards you for taking
it really encourages
an entire affiliated roster, doesn't it?
And there are I feel like the different Avengers lists use them at different points in the game. Like I feel like Steve typically uses, or at least in my experience, typically uses Avengers Assemble round 1.
Yeah, it's a bit of an opening move, isn't it?
Yeah, opening move, shunt everyone up the board, and then because you've got like cheap superpowers and stuff, you want to get attacks in early to build up that power to do stuff. And whereas Sam sort of plays it middle of the game to just get onto a bunch of objectives. And I haven't seen a great deal of Hulkbuster play. I imagine the same is with you, Rich. Hulkbuster doesn't seem to be that big of a thing, in terms of leadership.
Well, I think there's a few things, isn't there? He's still not out everywhere. People haven't got the games in yet. you know, people have not done the Hulkbuster reps yet, have they? I
Yeah,
think when
and
I
I think
looked, there was like
Hulkbuster.
18 games on Longshanks recorded, so it's
Yeah, I think he's really cool. I just don't know whether he's leader material. So like, I'll sort of leave him out of my considerations at the moment. But like, I mean, who doesn't like moving short with a 65 mil base? That's
with
helpful.
everyone in your team as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
and remember, like when you say you're playing Steve's Avengers, that's Hulk as well, people. That
yeah.
is Hulk who can
I know
move forward.
it's not just Hulk, Rich. It's Hulk and She-Hulk.
This is true. This is true. Quinn, second of the convocation, I think that we're on to now. Bane of Dambalar. After an attack made by an allied convocation character is resolved, if the attack contained one or more crit or hit result, it may spend one to play this card. Everyone within two, target and everyone within two, gain the root special condition. Again, we have to hold our hands up and say we haven't played a lot of convocation. I think I can see where this would be very, very good. Right, spending one power on something like a gamma to put root on everyone within range two of a
Yeah,
particular character. Well, guess what? Everyone's like all huddled up is amazing.
like Root is a very very strong condition, especially against certain characters in this game. For example, like Venom.
Yeah,
Venom hates Root so much. But
yeah.
like, yeah, like Root is really good. I don't know whether it's worth a tactics card simply because like it's a convocation card. There are quite a few good convocation cards. I don't know whether it exactly meets the cut, but I think it's well.
I,
Once
I,
again, I
I
think
would
this
say
is
it's a
sort of
B. I would say it's like a B tier for me.
yeah
You know,
B
it's
for Bane of
definitely
Damballa.
something. Yeah, there we go. It's definitely something that you can consider. It's yeah, you know, it's definitely in there, isn't it? Again, depending on the setup, right? Sometimes you don't know what you're playing into. Other times you've seen their list and you've been able to examine it. You know, we can't play around with crisis cards like we used to anymore. You know, if you could guarantee that you were, you know, if you had priority, you had a 2 in 3 chance of being able to play Gamma Shelter, for example, then that card may be higher up the list. But because of the randomness now, we've got to be able to prepare for more varied sort of scenarios, haven't we, Quinn? So I think that's
Yeah,
a big thing. Banishment, Midnight Suns, basically, yeah, it's not very good, is it?
I mean, like the best thing about this card is that it has Elsa Bloodstone on it, which means you should
It's
probably pick
some
that at some
it's
point.
some really nice artwork.
I don't even know who Elsa Bloodstone is, but I like the idea of having more Midnight Suns characters. So yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But like,
What do we think then?
it's Bane of Damballa, but it's harder to get off.
And it's a lesser condition.
I don't know whether stun is lesser. Like there are certain things that it is really good against.
I mean,
But like,
you can see where I'm hovering. What do you think?
I mean, it's D because you just don't take it because like so Suns have far better cards they can use.
Yeah. So Quinn, on to the second bestest boy in MCP. I won't have anything said.
What?
Mate, Lockjaw is the bestest boy, all right? That's the Ghost Hound.
He's the bestest boy that you can put on the board.
That's the Ghost Hound, Quinn. Modify your dice to any result, including failures. I mean, are you ever not taking this in your 5?
So previously, before the changes, I didn't take it very often. Simply because I'm a very proactive player. I typically forget cards like that. But now that there are changes to like what's restricted and what isn't, like something has to get shunted out of my list, whether it be bitter rivals, med pack, or field dressing.
Yep.
Whichever one of those goes, probably gets replaced with that because, like, being able to pretty much guarantee a crimson, like a mystic binding, or
That's the
getting
big thing, isn't it?
a crucial like pierce on blade that effectively turns into 2 damage because you didn't have one before. Like, you know, getting the stagger off of Moon Knight, getting another wild on Staff of Legbur for more power burn, for more damage. Like, there are so many applications of this in Suns. Like, even guaranteeing a hex on Ghost Rider can be really important. Like, I don't see a world now where you don't include it.
So are we saying we ought to include it in our roster or our squad?
I think it was always ought to include in your roster. I think now with the changes and the new restricted list, it's probably always in your squad.
I'll take that. You are the authority, at least out of us two, on Midnight Suns. So I am happy with that one. Next up, Black Order, Blood to Spare, reactive character. When you would be dazed, you spend 3 power, and basically you get to make an attack, don't you? It's a little bit like Ronan's sort of thing that he's got, isn't it? I never remember the name of it. The Accuser one, yeah. I see this included quite a bit in rosters. I don't always come up against it when I'm playing against Black Order. What are your thoughts?
Like, when you're not seeing it, is that a mistake? Because Black Order thrives off of making attacks, right? That's their entire game plan, is kill shit.
Yeah.
Like, getting that off on a Corvus who's like fully juked
Can
up
be devastating, yeah.
Like, if Corvus is on 10 power and you daze him, like, he suddenly just turns around and goes, okay, well, I'm effectively going to have half an activation
Yeah.
because you killed me, because fuck you.
And Quinn, just for everyone at home, is there a window of opportunity there to do other things? Can you add the extra dice, the blank dice, or the extra dice that he gets to include on a Corvus, for example, or the empowered?
I believe that both of those powers are reactive. I know that Death's Decree is, obviously. I'm fairly certain that Glade's Edge is, because I think it specifies when you make a strike or death blow attack. So, yeah, you can have, like, a full, like, however many dice Corvus attack.
Everything available to you, yeah. So are we saying yes? Are we saying that Black Order players should be using it?
Just because you don't always see it doesn't mean that it shouldn't always be there.
This is true. This is true. I think the next one, Quinn, is about the 18th Convocation card we've had already.
It's got to be at least like in the 70s, right?
Book of Cagliostro. Choose a Convocation character. The chosen character and 2 other characters within range 3 of it may spend 2 power each to play this card. God, I'll tell you one thing. These Convocation guys do like their wordy tactics cards, don't they?
It's almost like they're wizards and all that.
Basically, remove and activate a token from the chosen character. But the kicker here, guys, is during the cleanup phase, you may discard 2 team tactics cards and put this one back in your hand. I mean, it's an extra activation, right? That's always a good thing, or very rarely a bad thing. Again, we are no authority on Convocation by any stretch of the imagination, but we're judging these cards on their merit and from what we're reading and how we've seen them played. I mean, that's got to be at least an auto include in your roster, right? If you're playing,
I'd probably sit it about there. Yeah. Like when I dabbled with Convocation, I didn't play it very often just because I was frequently ending up on maps where I couldn't really get the benefit out of it. But that card is real good.
It's real good.
There are a lot of stipulations on it and a lot of ways that your opponent can stop you from doing it if they are like canny enough to know that's what you're going for. But like, if you get it off, it can be a massive swing.
Yeah, absolutely. Cat and Mouse, X-Force. I think the first card we've had so far that you play
card for X-Force
in deployment.
Yep.
So basically, you get to make a range 2 placement, don't you? After deployment.
This is pretty much like, I'm not going to say it's X-Force's only good card, but it's definitely their best card. So I think this is probably S for X-Force, right?
They are, yeah, and that's the thing as well, guys, just to sort of clarify this, is that we're not saying that Cat and Mouse is as good as Asteroid M or whatever else. It's like, within the confines of, if you're playing X-Force, should this be a card that you're taking? That's kind of our approach to it, which is why we've done it While we've done it slightly different this time round, we're judging each card on its merit by itself. But yeah, I mean, and typically, Quinn, the target for that is Cable, isn't it? More often than
I've
not.
seen Sabretooth used a lot for like midline extract grabs.
Okay.
Like that's what I've seen it used for a lot. Obviously, Cable makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but because you can only make one move action, can't you, in your activation after you've used it, which is a little bit restrictive.
Yeah.
But yeah. Next up, Children of the Atom, the first of our X-Men cards.
We get to shit all over X-Men. Yay.
Remove all special conditions from a character, and then you gain 1 power for each special condition removed. There are situations now, Quinn, where you can end up with lots of conditions on you. Star-Lord can dish out multiple. Wanda can dish out multiple. We've got lots of tactics cards that dish them out. We've got Crisis that dish them out. So, more often than not, throughout the period of a game, you can end up with 1 or more special conditions on you at any point in time. And then gaining a power for each one you remove can be quite nice. If you've bogged down a particular character and then they remove them all. I just don't know who within X-Men you would spend this card on. And there are so many other cards for X-Men that you would want to bring, both character and unaffiliated.
There are a lot of X-Men characters that would love to have extra power on them, right?
I'm sure any of them would, yeah.
But... I mean, yeah, the issue comes with the fact that this card is typically going to be played either in the middle of a game or towards the end of it. Like, you're almost never playing this round 1 or 2. Maybe round 2, but like almost certainly not round 1.
Very, very rare. Almost never round 1
is when round 1 and 2 are kind of when X-Men need that power help, because they have like best at what I do and like stuff like that, where like it's those superpowers like best at what I do and Dawn's superpower lightning bolt, whatever the hell that's called, and like they are very good cards for sort of like getting the ball rolling in terms of a character's power generation.
Yeah.
And like you need that early, right? Because otherwise, like the ball gets rolling too late, it never makes its way all the way down the hill.
Well, there's less value as well that isn't the later on in the game you leave it. So
getting rid of conditions is great, but equally you could just be taking another tactic card that might is probably more generally applicable.
Yeah.
And in that vein, probably better. I think you definitely consider it.
I think it's a C, isn't it? I think it's definitely C.
Whenever I've built X-Men, like I've looked at it and gone, maybe, and then like by the end of my roster building process, I've just gone, yeah, no, there's no room for you.
Yeah.
But like, it's still being considered. Like, I don't laugh at it in the same way that I laugh at anger management and banishment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Quinn, next up, Cabal, Cosmic Invigoration. We were just talking about...
Card?
Yeah, it's a Cabal.
Yeah,
it's a Cabal card.
Just a Red Skull card for some
reason. One of their only 2. Basically, you get to make another activation. You spend 2 power. So you need Red Skull. So this doesn't work with a Syn leadership. It has to be Red Skull. But basically, any character within range 2, you both spend 2 power, and you remove the activator token from that character. The big play with this, Quinn, was obviously MODOK.
In the past,
in the past,
it's just I get to have another go with my Hulk. Delightful.
Yeah. So for me, if you're playing, because there's a sort of a double stipulation to this, isn't there? If you're playing Red Skull's Cabal, which is what this is, because very rarely you're going to run Syn and Cabal. Sorry, Syn and Red Skull alongside each other. So if you're playing Red Skull's Cabal, then this is more than likely. I mean, it's definitely in your roster.
Yeah,
I think more than likely in your squad, right?
Probably always in your roster. I think in a Skull list specifically, this probably ekes out Dark Reign.
I would agree.
If you're going to take one Cabal card, I think in Skull you take this over Dark Reign.
Yeah, yeah. Next up, Crew of the Milano. Everyone spends 1 power, and you get to remove all special conditions. That's key, all special conditions, but you then cannot suffer special conditions this round. So because of that extra little bit of wording on the end, Quinn, I'm going to say it has more value than other cards of a similar nature.
I mean, it's so much better than Children of the Atom, let's be real.
Yeah. Having been playing some, not a lot, but some Guardians of late, it is definitely one that is always in the mix for being part of my roster. I don't always end up playing it because if you're coming up against an affiliation that doesn't really dish them out, then there's no real value to taking it unless you're on a, there can be some value if you're on a demons or something like that, a particular crisis that is dishing out tokens as well. So I think for me it probably sits in that B tier, B plus, A minus, where it's like it's not quite an auto include in your roster every single time, but it's definitely something that you're going to consider. Or definitely something that you're more than likely going to be putting in, I should say.
I think this is basically always in your roster. Once again, like if you're dual affiliating, like maybe not. Guardians don't have that many affiliated cards, but they do have quite a few like character cards. Like you've got your Deadly Duos and your Daughters of Thanos and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And they're good character cards that you probably want to take with you as well.
Like Lovable Misfits is kind of like its only real contender, and like Lovable Misfits is just entirely chaos.
But it's amazing, and you should always be taking it.
Sometimes that card is incredible. Other times you roll like 5 skulls.
I'm
going to say is that the skulls on that card aren't the worst thing, but like I feel like it's always sort of there. If you're dual affiliating, maybe it drops out, but I still probably don't think it does. I'll put it in B just to be safe.
That's what I'm thinking is B tier because of that, because of the fact that if you are dual affiliating, then then it may be that you don't want to include it. Quinn, up next then, second of the Criminal Syndicate lists, and I believe the only affiliated card we have today that is just an outright like do this attack. A little sort of bar across.
What, Wakanda and Midnight Suns?
No. In terms of that allows you to make an attack action, doesn't it? That costs 0. I'm talking about you get the sort of it gives you a different attack that you can do, like Magnetic Crush and that sort of stuff.
It does and it doesn't, because Cruelty automatic, like you just
doesn't
do the attack. It doesn't cost you an action.
Yeah, doesn't cost you an action, and it's Mystic, range 5 damage, 0 cost, but you pay 2 power to play the card. Some stipulations: you can only add dice from crit results, can't you? And you're not able to modify
dice. Also, the attack has to be against someone that you've just damaged with another attack.
Yeah.
So like there are a lot of stipulations on this card, and I really like the theme of it, of like getting into someone's head. I just very rarely see this in like CS rosters. I think like you can consider it, sure, but like I think most of the time you're probably not taking it.
Do we think with Bullseye now? Do we think that this could be something that Bullseye could be taking more? I mean, I know he's obviously on there, but because does his I Never Miss trigger this?
I believe. I don't know.
I'm just going to read the card. If an allied character damages an enemy character with an attack, I'm going to say no.
I would be inclined to say no. I'll have a look at Bullseye in a minute, but I'm going to say no.
I think we're going to say no, but I think that's still a card that you can definitely consider. Quinn, next up, Dark Empowerment, the first of only 2 Dark Dimension cards, I want to say. So during a character's activation, it may suffer 1 damage to play this card. Choose another character within range 3 of the active character. Effects of the next attack made this turn by the character cannot cause it to gain power. The chosen character gains power equal to the damage dealt by the attack. It's a really heavily worded one, but
yeah, I mean, you're
basically,
the Dark Dimension man. Go for it.
well, I mean, what does this mean? So basically, you do an attack, right? Let's say that you're doing an attack with Rocket Raccoon, right? His 5 dice builder. Or let's go even better, right? Is his 7 dice spender that wouldn't normally generate power. Rocket can choose to take 1 damage,
which is
and
a
then
fifth of his total health pool across the game.
yeah, take 1 damage, and then any other characters, so let's say Dormammu, within range 3, will then gain power equal to the damage dealt that he causes, even though that wouldn't usually generate power. Power generation is something that you really have to manage on Dark Dimension, and playing with Dormammu, you're going to use a lot of power, and you don't have a lot of ways to generate it. However, I think this is a card you could definitely. I think more often than not, you're going to include it in your roster. So I think it's sort of B tier, but it's definitely not on auto include, depending on what roster of characters you're taking, and it's definitely not always include it in your squad.
I would agree. I think that's fair. Just wanted to remind everyone at home of that time where Rich thought he was going to be like the most dark dimension player in the world.
I gave that up. Absolutely gave that up. So can we next card? Dark Restoration, Dark Dimension. Dormammu spends 6 power. Bring a character back from the dead on their healthy side. I mean, you're taking this in your. You're taking this. There's no. You're not playing Dark Dimension and not playing this card.
Actually, want to play all the time, right?
Yeah, this is the card that you're taking. You know, there's some real good candidates. Lizard's a great one for it. Baron Zemo is a great. You know, any 3 threat who's been KO'd, right? Come up against the killer list. Just bring a character back. Mix that in with a Mr. Sinister, and you're not only bringing characters back, you're also cloning new characters as well. It's crazy. It's good. If you're playing Dark Dimension,
is it good, Rich? Is it?
It is good. No, it's a good card. It's a really good card.
Why did you stop playing them if they were so
good?
Really
good card. I just couldn't get my head around it. There was just having one character at so much threat. I just didn't enjoy. I mean, it needs to be at least 2 threat less. I know it's true. It's true. Next up, Quinn, Dark Reign for the Cabal. Any Cabal character may spend 3 power to play the card. Choose an enemy character. Allied Cabal characters may reroll any number of attack dice when attacking the chosen character this round. So not only are they going to get rerolls from Zemo, because he's probably going to be in your team anyway.
I mean, if you're playing Cabal and Zemo isn't there, you're doing something wrong.
You know, you've got characters like MODOK who have got rerolls. You've got characters like Killmonger who can spend tokens for rerolls. And yeah, I mean, it just amplifies what they already have access to. I'm going to say it's probably an auto-include in your roster. Yeah. I don't know if it's an auto-include in your squad.
I would say that it isn't an auto-include in your squad. It's definitely in your roster because I feel like both Skull and Syn make use of this. Like, Syn specifically, if she goes for like a rapid-fire spam type list, getting full rerolls on rapid-fires seems pretty damn good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another Brotherhood of Mutants card next. Difficult to please. Now we have. This is probably the first card that's come up where we are going to. Our views are going to differ significantly.
I mean, this is where like the schism occurs, right?
Yeah, because
I'm correct and you're wrong.
I see a huge value in this card. Getting 2 activations on Magneto is good. And on certain maps, it can be very, very easy to achieve. Usually the Scarlet Witch dazing or KOing, That's the easy part. It's more the Quicksilver interacting or picking up an objective token that's a little bit harder. You've got to time it right. You have to be playing those three characters: Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Magneto. Now, if you're a Brotherhood player like me, they are my core 14. So that's what I'm playing at 14 threat. So for me, it's really easy, and it is an auto include 99% of the time in my squad. However, Quinn, you have a differing opinion on the card, don't you?
I do have a differing viewpoint because if you're a Brotherhood player like me and you're top rated in the world on Longshanks, sorry, Rich.
So it's four difference, by the way, people.
It's still a difference. But like, yeah. Typically, my 14 that I build out of is like Witch, Magneto, Lockjaw. That's very like a rather large differing point. I do take Quicksilver like at higher threat levels, and there are certain threat levels where I don't take the dog. The thing with this card is like Brotherhood are already overflowing with really good tactics cards. You're taking Asteroid M, you're taking Winds of Chaos, you're taking Refraction, right? And then like you've got space for like 2 more cards, and they're typically your 2 restricted cards. However, in the new world where all you've got is no longer a thing that you can take, and this is a world that I haven't really played Brotherhood in, because all you've got was very vital to my game plan with Brotherhood when I played them. I could see this working, so I think this probably goes into your roster, but I think this only sort of shows up when A, you're planning on taking those 3 characters in your squad, and B, you feel like you have a crisis setup where you can get interacts with Quicksilver.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right on the latter, where the crisis can be, and especially now as we have less control over the crisis, right? So that's a big thing. So I'm happy to see it in here where we say it's probably going to be part of your 10, because I think you're right. I think there's even more value to this card now in a world where all you've got has disappeared, and therefore 2 activations has more value overall. Now, they're obviously not back-to-back activations, but it does also mean that you're going to get access to, you're going to get a reset on his throws and that sort of thing as well. So I'm happy going in it here. I've no issues with that.
Yeah, I'm happy with it in A as well.
X-Force, dirty work.
Put it in D. It's
yeah, I mean it's like a really bad version of Usurp the Throne. If it was gain 2 VPs, then I'd see some value in this.
Honestly, I feel like the comparison to Usurp the Throne just sullies Usurp the Throne. Like, get that thing out.
No, but you know what I mean, right? The idea behind it is the same.
I absolutely detest this card and think it's awful.
Oh, Quinn.
Yeah, I'm going to make people mad. I don't give a shit.
No. It's already got in D.
Good.
We've got to, I believe...
Solidarity, Rich. Solidarity.
I believe we've got to the first of our errated cards. It's Doom Prophecy.
Oh, God, yeah. That's the affiliate card, isn't it?
What's D for Quinn?
D is for don't ever play Asgard until they get more releases.
So I'll not say what Quinn's saying. Play Asgard if you want, guys, right? You can still have fun with Asgard, but Doom Prophecy is not a good card for Asgard as they stand
Doom
right now.
Prophecy, like, went to being an Asgard only card and then, stopped being restricted. Sure, yeah. Cool, fine. But this is not a thing that anyone wants.
No.
Get it away from me.
On to one of the better X-Men cards now. First Class. Basically, you play it in the start of the activation phase, and they do not have to spend a power the first time they interact with an objective token. You're taking this in your squad every single time.
Yeah, you are, because, like, This is the only good card that X-Men has.
Yeah, I don't
Nah,
mind
like,
to me.
to me, he's decent. I'll give them that much. But like, equally, like, this is by far and away the best card they have.
Yeah. Quinn, on to the first of our Inhumans cards, and it is the Inhuman Royal Family. Any
Sorry, who
number
are
of
we talking about?
Inhumans. So any number of
Did they
characters.
get released in this game?
Any number of characters may spend 2 power to play this card. Once this round, each character that spent power may reroll any number of dice in one of their attack or defense rolls. I mean, Inhumans get rerolls already, right? So the theory there is that you are already amplifying what they've already got, which is good, right? It's not usually a bad thing. I actually think in this new world of Medusa needing more to trigger, there could be more value in this card now than what there was previously for them.
What I feel about this card is, one, I like the fact that Karnak is on it.
Yep, I like that. I do like that.
Karnak's cool, dude. I think this card can effectively only go up in value with the release of more Inhumans. Now,
absolutely. Absolutely.
When the hell that's going to be, who knows, right? Like, latest Inhuman release was Ms. Marvel, and that's like, she was a release for other affiliations as well. Like, I don't know when we're going to get like Karnak and Gorgon and Triton and Maximus.
I mean, there's people like Quake as well who are on the could potentially be in there.
And then
we've seen her on Outwork as well.
Boyfriends Crystal has had over the years, all of them,
all of the boyfriends. So remember, we're saying in the confines of playing Inhumans, Quinn. What do we think for this one? Do we think
in the confines of playing Inhumans? Because I did actually have a rather prolonged streak with Inhumans when they were first coming out. I was quite excited for them. I never really used this card. There were just other cards that I wanted to include instead. I feel like this, like, if you're building an Inhumans roster, you're probably putting it in your 10. I don't think that's really in question. It's just,
I don't think it's an auto include in your 5. Because that's the other thing we have to remember as well now, Quinn, is we're going from 8. We've gone from 8 to 10. That's quite big. That's those 2 extra cards are quite big, so it does open it up for a bit more flexibility.
Sometimes I really wish we'd gone from like 5 to 6. That'd be so helpful.
Oh, it'd be so nice, wouldn't it? The 73rd card now for Convocation, the Ironbound Books of Schumer Gorath. So a Convocation character may spend 2 power during the power phase to play this card. This round, when an enemy targets an allied character with a physical attack, you may choose to change the attack's type to Mystic. When an allied character is KO'd after the effect is resolved, you may return this card to your available Team Tactics card, and it can be played again. We all know that the one thing that Convocation guys lack is physical defense. Mm-hmm. This mitigates that. I think it's probably the first of the Convocation cards, Quinn. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it probably goes in your 5.
This is definitely in your squad. Like,
yeah,
I've not seen a Convocation player not take this card because, in my opinion, and indeed a lot of other people's opinions, this is by far and away their best card. Yeah,
I agree. Guardians of the Galaxy, lovable misfits. We've already spoke about it. Everyone spends a power, and then all hell breaks loose. I love it. It always goes in my roster, and not only that, it always goes in my squad because it has the potential to be amazing. The problem is it can also be rubbish, but it has the potential to be amazing.
I mean, this card also always goes in my squad. Whether it should or not is, something for debate. But
Quinn,
I just really fun.
I think it should, and do you know what? You just hit the nail on the head there because it's fun. That's why it should go in your roster. There's value to it. It's only a power, and the crazy thing is that the number of things that this can then trigger as well is just mental. Like, you add this in with then a Daughters of Thanos or a Deadly Duo, and you could have got like 5 or 6 attacks off, 7 or 8 sometimes if it's Deadly Duo, turn what first activation of a round, and your opponent hasn't been able to do anything, so you just get to do loads of stuff. I think it's really cool. I love it. It just, for me, there are very few other cards that embody what an affiliation should be than this. I think it's an amazing card and should be played by everyone playing Guardians.
Yeah, I mean, like, I want to be the voice of reason somewhat here. I think, like, if you're playing Guardians competitively, there are definitely situations where you lose the card out.
Still
But,
take it. Still take it.
Yeah,
It's going in S. It's going in S. If you're playing Guardians,
what's the point of winning if you're not doing it with fun things?
Exactly. Mothership, Black Order, S tier.
Yep.
Like,
Enough said.
Get around the board.
I mean, Asteroid M went into S tier. This goes into S tier.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Interesting one next, Quinn. Neogenetic Recombinator. So spider foes, 2 allied spider foes within 3 of each other may play this card. One of the characters that played the card may suffer up to 3 damage. Remove 3 damage from the other character. Now, I saw a lot of people using this card back in the bad days of Goblin to flip him earlier. To heal back up a Mysterio or somebody and then flip him, which I thought was crazy.
I mean, like, I played a lot of... I played a decent amount of foes back when they were considered terrible, and, like, the whole, Goblin's so much better on his flip side thing, I never bought because he's so easy to kill. Like, insanely easy to kill. And I have had a bit of a foes resurgence, or at least I did in the new rules until, fell in love with the Double Hulk.
Obviously.
I mean, yeah, this card I did include in my rosters, and I regularly included it in my 5, but what I found is I typically wasn't running the foes that this is best on. The foes this is best on being, like, the symbiote. Pretty much just the symbiotes. Like,
no, Lizard as well. I'd say there's some value in Lizard.
Away, which is, like, cool.
Yeah.
But, like, the symbiotes are where it's at in terms of this card, because, like, Carnage heals to full when he does paint the town red. So, and, like, Venom can, obviously, we are Venom to heal.
My question is also then, with the, at least in our opinion, the lessening of Carnage now, does then this card have less value because you're far less likely to be playing Carnage than you were previously?
So in my experience of playing foes, which didn't use a great deal of the whole Carnage Doom Prophecy thing, I used it on you, and that was the one time I used it, and it was absolutely delightful, as I'm sure you'll agree.
It was the worst thing I've ever experienced in this game.
But, like, so I wasn't playing this card a great deal before. I tried using it again once I got back into them. I don't really think this has a huge place. I think I'd probably rather just take, like, Medpack as, like, a restricted card.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Like, power is a lot less valuable to foes now than it was, and also it's always less valuable than health.
Power is something you can always generate more of. Health is restricted, and it is. It's a finite resource. I'm torn between B and C.
I think, like, if you're playing pure foes, sure, it's probably in there, but, like, I think you just consider it. Like, I think there are a lot of times where, like, you just sort of look at it and go, I could just have other cards here and they'd be better.
Well, that's fair enough. Odin's Blessing, Asgard, reduce damage to 1.
It's S. Like,
there we go.
When have you seen an Asgard list not run this card?
Yeah, I mean, move on, next card. But yeah, it's in S tier. Like, it's one of the big things that they have got. I think it's the 138th Convocation card next.
Yeah, we've been recording this video for, like, about 7 years at this point. Rich has seen his children grow up from the seat of the computer.
Orb of Agamotto. Any number of Convocation characters not holding an objective token may spend 3 power to play this card. Characters that spent 3 power are placed within 3 of their current location. And this is the card, isn't it, that Asgard also have with Rainbow Bridge. But whereas Rainbow Bridge was better because it didn't have the objective restriction, it now has. I think it's an okay card.
I mean,
It's
this
an
card is
okay
cool.
card.
Like,
It's out of
I don't know
activation
how
movement is
many.
good.
Like, yeah, I'm not sure how many wizards end up with that amount of power, particularly. Like,
They have a lot of power to spend
they
things
have a
on,
lot of
don't
power,
they?
but then you've got like you've got the stipulation of objectives in there as well, which means that Voodoo is almost certainly not using it. So
Yeah.
like, you can plink the ancient one around, you can plink strange around. They both kind of have their own ways of doing that.
I think it's
Um, I think
better than consideration. I think it probably sits in the B
it's better
tier.
than consideration. I don't think it's always in your 10, but I think you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. It's Pentagram's time.
It's what time? I'm like I've brought this up now. I'm just staring at a blank piece of paper.
Defenders, Pentagrams of Faralar. During the power phase, an allied Doctor Strange or an allied Wong may spend 3 power to play this card. Place a Mystic Portal token within range 1 of the character that played this card, and then place a Mystic Portal token anywhere within 5 of the same character. At any time during a character's activation, while within 1 of a Mystic's Portal, it may spend 1 per turn to interact with it effectively, and be placed within 1 of another Mystic Portal. This used to be the big Defenders play.
This
Turn
was like
0,
the thing that every
turn
Defender
1.
squad was built around, right?
And now there
Now,
is mathematically no way to be able to play this card turn 0 or turn 1. Therefore, the value in this card has just decreased to the point where I'm going to say, Quinn, don't take it. Don't take it.
I agree entirely. Like, I feel like Defenders have walked up to like, yeah, it's like the scene between Thanos and Scarlet Witch. Like, Defenders are walking up to Thanos and like, you took everything from me, and it's just like it pans up, and instead of Thanos' face, it's just Pagani, and he's just like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, it's a shame, Quinn. Defenders are in a bit of a poor spot at the moment.
I mean, like,
fingers crossed.
we need a month of release where
Yeah,
we get like Asgard and Defenders, and then everything's right with the world.
We just need some tactics cards on Defenders that help them
Yeah,
either
like,
give them a new lease of life for being able to do something, or can really capitalize on what I think is a great leadership ability from Strange. But help them with that attrition game, I think would be really good. Next, Quinn, 374th Convocation card.
You are now a grandfather.
So the Plane of Poldak. Convocation active. Any Convocation character may spend 3 power to play this card. Choose an enemy character. Allied characters may reroll any number of attack dice when making mystic attacks against the chosen character this round. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Dark Reign, but different in some ways that make it better and worse.
Yeah. It's it's limited by Mystic, I think, is over the other one.
But equally, it's freed up to like include your out of affiliation picks.
You're playing Convocation. It's going to be Mystic.
I mean, yes and no. Like I've seen a fair bit of Convocation with like Zemo, for example.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think it's one that will more than likely make your 10 as a Convocation player. I don't think it's an auto include.
I think also like Convocation stock has probably gone up in the new world because of like, I mean, well, I don't want to say that Hulk is weak to it, because I mean, Hulk is weak to nothing. He's the strongest one there is. But like, if you want to make like a Mystic firing squad to deal with the likes of Hulk and like Captain America and all those characters that are sort of earlier releases that didn't have methods to deal with Mystic, that's definitely a card you can use to it.
It's a really good card. Yeah. And the fact that it's everyone for a turn is really, really
who doesn't want to re-roll dice with Scarlet Witch? That's
oh yeah. Can Scarlet Witch use it?
Yeah, because you don't have to be a Convocation character to get the benefit.
Oh, of course.
Because she does mystic attacks, right? And that's the only
Yeah.
requirement. It's just that like a Convocation character has to play it.
Yeah. No, it's true.
But
I
like
just
Blade gets rerolls as well. Like there are quite a few characters that are like quite spicy with it.
Murdoch. Very nice.
Yeah.
Pretty sneaky sis. X-Force. During the power phase, any number of allied X-Force characters may spend 2 power to play this card. Enemy characters must be within range 2 of characters that spent power to target them with attacks this round. It's like a better version of stealth for everyone, isn't it? Within your team, but without the keyword stealth, so things that get rid of it don't work against it. But I mean, there's a lot of range on X-Force characters, but equally they don't mind being up close and personal either.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Actually,
there's a duality to X-Force, which like if you're building sort of the gun line type of X-Force where you have Zemo and you build like a bubble around Zemo and you get like double rerolls and all this stuff and like you use bang on Deadpool to get like a bunch of shots, like this can be really good. Whereas like if you're playing a different form of X-Force where like maybe you're bringing Laura and Gabby now that they're a thing, and like Wolverine, Sabretooth, that sort of stuff, and you're getting in the mix, less useful but equally could be very useful depending on what you're up against. So I think you probably take this in your 10 and then you make a judgment call when you're building your squad.
Yeah, depending on what you're coming up against, what squad you put together, what crisis cards what crisis you're going to be on. It's pretty useless on Gamma potentially, but really good on an F or a D setup, for example. So yeah, I think it goes in your 10 as an X-Force player, but I think it may not always make your your 5.
Yeah.
Price of Failure. Black Order. Choose an injured allied character to play this card. Other allied characters gain 3 power. The chosen character is KO'd. I saw this a lot in the early days. I still see it a reasonable amount in rosters, but not every roster is playing Black Order.
I'm really battling with the notion of just putting this in D, simply because the way that Black Order typically plays, you do not have the room to just get character at all.
I think, depending on the threat level, because obviously your core for Black Order is probably going to be an 8 threat Thanos, and then
a
5 threat Corvus and a 3 threat, so to 16 threat in total, right? With the gems, right? So there are opportunities to put in a 2 threat or a 3 threat character, and because you don't have to be a Black Order character to play this card, so you can play it on a Toad or a Nebula or whoever else. I think if they're going to die anyway, then there's some value. Which if you're a 2 threat character, that's likely in a game.
I guess if that character is going to die to something that doesn't have the potential to impact the game later on, like a throw or actual attack. Like they're going to die from being outside of Gamma Shelter range or something silly like that. Sure, you play it, but I feel like most of the time, it is more valuable for that character to waste one of your opponent's resources in form of action
to take them out. Yeah, to take them out. So I think it's probably a considered card.
I will allow you to put it in C with the caveat that I definitely think it should be D. I just want it known that I think that card is not very good.
Okay.
With the way that Black Order currently plays.
Yeah, I mean they are the most killiest of lists, aren't they? That's how
they're not. Double Hulk is this.
No, in terms of how they want to try and win games. We still need to run my Brotherhood against your Double Hulk. Maybe that's something we do over
Oh,
the
you
Christmas
want to lose the
period.
Brotherhood more? Jeez.
Rainbow Bridge, Asgard. We've just gone through what this card does with the other one for Convocation. Less value now because of
The
it not
further
working
stipulation
with
on it.
movement.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, with tokens. Um, it's probably going in your 10 as an Asgard player.
I would say, yeah, it probably is. Once again, like, if Asgard gets some releases, which, like, there are so many they could do, like, Warriors 3, that's already nearly doubling the amount of characters they have. Or at least the
Odin.
number of, like, viable characters they have.
Odin.
Odin, like, you're a very big proponent of Odin. I absolutely fucking love the Allfather. I just don't know whether he's going to be in this game.
I'd love him to be in the game, just for his miniature more than anything else.
Yeah, like, you've seen,
Ultimate
like,
Encounter Odin as the big reveal this year. Or
you've
next.
seen, like, the trophy they do for, like, the painting things that they showed off, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, exactly. Quinn, on to the next one. Second Wind, Avengers. Player power, remove stun, and a damage.
I mean, at least Aunt May give you something nice to eat.
Are you even considering this?
I mean, I've never considered it. Like, I mean,
There were just
put it in D.
there were just so many other better cards out there.
Like, I feel like this is worse than Wheatcakes simply because Wheatcakes has play into the mirror. I don't think this does.
Yeah.
Like, also, the most important Avenger is now immune to stun.
Of course.
So, like, it's just another thing of, like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. But, like, another thing with these sorts of cards is, like, in some game, 1 HP can make such a massive difference.
It can.
Right?
Yeah, it really can.
In others, it is completely worthless.
And it's one of those things that you are never going to know
until you're like in the middle of a game and
until
like,
you go into it.
You've already taken that card and you're like, sweet, now I can play it all.
Yeah.
You know, you've already taken that card and you're like, oh, this is terrible. There's never going to be a good situation to play this.
Is there an affiliation that dishes out stun willy-nilly? I don't think there is there?
There are a couple of characters that do, like Daredevil and Kingpin both do stun. Like, Daredevil, Kingpin, Iron Fist all sort of do stun on their builders with a wild. But, like...
It's not like it's not like it's bleed with Midnight Suns
it's
or
not like
slow with Web Warriors, is it?
Like it's not stagger, right? Like if it was stagger, you take that card all day, every day. But like it's not. So yeah.
Or just a condition token. Remove a condition token.
Like I would take that card in my 5 almost every game.
Yeah.
But it's not. Like it's stun and like pretty much every character in the game can get by like, you know, with a stun. It's like, this is annoying, but hopefully I'm going to get dazed at some point and this isn't going to matter to me.
It's not crippling, is it? Like a bleed or like a hex or an incinerate, right? Where
stun can be crippling on someone like Magneto, but Magneto isn't an Avenger.
Nope, absolutely not. Shadow Organization, Criminal Syndicate. During the power phase, any number of allied Criminal Syndicate characters may spend 2 power to play this card. You must be within range too. Are we seeing, Quinn, a bit of laziness here from AMG on their on their cards? We've already had this one, haven't we?
I mean, technically, we had this one first. Like I would probably put this in like B. I think it's basically always in, but like once again, it's kind of like an all according to plan kind of thing, right? It's like, sure, this can be really good, but like, is it what CS typically wants? Like, I'm sure there are situations where this card is incredible, like, depending on what the crisis is and what you're up against. But 2 power is a lot of power off of certain Syndicate characters. Like, 2 power off of Kingpin or, like, you know, Crossbones or whoever, that's 2 damage reductions, which, depending on how, like, rolls go, can be better than this card in terms of getting rid of attack.
Yeah, okay. So we're saying that it's like it's more than likely going to end up in your 10, but it's
Yeah,
not a
I think you
guaranteed.
definitely like, it's probably in there. I just don't know how often you actually end up playing it.
Okay, fair enough. Siege of Darkness. I mean, just don't
I
play
mean,
it, right? It's just DT.
yeah, card's terrible. Yeah, as you know, a Midnight Sun's authority. Definitely don't play that card.
No, straight into S tier. And it's
S Siege.
it's another one of these cards that really does reward you for taking a fully affiliated team as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, big time.
But super good. This costs one more power than the Wakanda one, but the
All of
reason
your
for that
attacks are
is
way better than what Wakanda can do.
all the attacks are way better. You've got much higher threat characters, and you've got more characters that you
Yeah,
can include
more affiliate
in
characters.
there
Like,
as well. So yeah,
also, your attrition list, so more attacks, is just like it's
yep.
incredible.
Spider Foes, Sinister Traps.
A.
It goes in your roster every single time. There are just some maps where it doesn't work, isn't there?
Yeah, like sometimes you'll sort of be looking at what you're up against and what the map is, and you'll be like, I don't think I can afford to say no to one of these objectives.
Yeah.
For sure, like my opponent can't get it, but I also
But
can't
also
get it.
you can't get
I
it.
actually
Yeah.
have to be able to fight over that rather than like getting pushed off it and taking damage and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Air Force Special Delivery, S tier.
I mean, like, yeah.
It's drop off for Hulk. Just take the card. Like,
I mean, it's drop off for She-Hulk.
She-Hulk, sorry, yeah, Hulk would be amazing. Yeah, it's such a good card. I love drop off. I should probably give Air Force a run out just because of this card.
Yeah, you were a very big fan of drop off.
Loved drop off. Yeah, loved it.
You also really liked Follow Me, which is why I think you should play Double Hulk.
Yeah, potentially.
Like, because that card is atrociously good in that list.
Next up, Spider Tracker, Web Warriors. After an enemy character ends a move action within range 4 of an allied Web Warriors character, that allied character may spend 2 power to play this card. The character may advance short. I see it a bit, but not, it's not a staple from what I can tell in the old Web Warriors.
Like, once again, this sort of comes back to me as a player. I really don't like these reactive type cards because I will forget them in the heat of the moment, and I know that about myself. Like, I'm sure if you're some sort of mastermind and you're like an incredible Web Warriors player, basically you're anyone that isn't Aaron, you can probably make use of this card. But like, yeah, I think it's just not for me.
I think it's probably a B tier. I think it's probably one that you would I think look at including.
It's probably going in your 10, but like there are situations where you don't.
Yeah, but maybe move it out if something else tickles your fancy a bit more.
Yeah.
Another Air Force card, Quinn, Stalwart Determination. During the power phase.
S tier.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Basically, spend a power and just be Gandalf on the bridge. Like, you cannot pass and I shall not be moved. Like, yeah. It's so good, isn't it? Like, especially in a game now where pushes and throws, whilst they have been nerfed somewhat, or characters that can do them have been nerfed, they're still really good. We've just been talking about Web Warriors coming up against a Web Warriors team. On the right round, this can be the difference between winning and losing a game, can't it?
Yeah, if you time this card correctly, like, you can just lock your opponent out of winning the game outright.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So, Quinn, next up is Terrigenesis, Inhumans. Spend 3 power. Choose an enemy character holding a civilian token within range 3. Roll 4 dice, deal 1 damage for each hit, crit, and wild that you roll. If it's dazed or KO'd, you score 2 VPs. It's a pretty decent card. Situational, I'm going to say. But again...
Probably the best card Inhumans have.
Yeah, and again, guys, it might not be the best tactics card in the game, but we're looking at when we're playing Inhumans, right? So these are the cards that they have access to. I'm gonna say it's probably A tier, and the reason why it's A over S is it's very niche in terms of or
That's why
situational.
I would personally put it in B. I think, like, with the B tier stuff, like, B tier stuff is affected by outside factors, right? That's why it's B rather than A, right?
Yeah, okay. No,
Like,
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
so stuff that's in A tier is like stuff that you're probably gonna play, but it's sort of like you make a personal judgment call, right? But it's not based on outside factors; it's based on what you want to do. Whereas B tier stuff is typically like sort of matchup and map dependent kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and like this is very, very like
yeah. I mean,
like how many
I'm
places are
playing
there where there's
hammers.
actually like a civilian? Like there's Spider Infected, Scrolls, Senator.
I think it's 3 or 4. I want to say.
I think it's just
Oh no,
because
because
I know
Panic has gone. Yeah, yeah.
Panic is gone. I don't know whether there's another civilian.
There could potentially be, but yeah,
There could be, but like the point stands, there are not many civilian
yeah.
extracts in the game.
So I think you need to make sure you are including it in your. You would only take this if you were taking at least one, probably 2, or maybe even 3
Yeah,
cards
maybe you take
that
all
had
three.
civilians.
But
So
once
yeah,
again, like VP is very important, but this is it's dice dependent, right? Like on average, you do 2 damage with this because it's 4 dice, hit crit wild.
yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There we go. Quinn, on to the next actual 2 cards. And these are tactics cards, but they are actually the same tactics card, but with something on front and back that are different. I think it's 423 and 424 of the tactics cards for Convocation.
Which has now been moved into a nursing home.
It's the bar with no doors. Obviously, the difference with this Quinn is it is a leader. Right? It's your leadership.
On a card.
So
It's weird.
let's just run over the rules for these Quinn really, really carefully. So the bar with no doors has front and back. Okay, you've got Circle of the Cosmos, and you've got Moons of Munapor.
Yeah.
Now they're the same card, right? So they're front and back. So they only use up one slot. They take up one of your 10. They do not take up one of your 5.
Yes.
So it's a bit harder to do this one, Quinn, because obviously they don't take up one of your 5, so it breaks our rules. But I'm just going to put them both in. I'm just going to put them both in S. Because
you're not going to play Convocation and not play these cards because that would be like playing Steve Avengers and just never using your discount, right? Leaderships are one of the main reasons we play in Affiliation.
Yes, yeah. So straight into S tier, include them in your 10, and that's the only thing that you're really, really penalised for, isn't it? Is that you're taking. You've only got 9 slots available, but it is what it is. Book of Truth for Brotherhood of Mutants. This is the one Brotherhood card that I don't even consider taking.
I mean, when you say that, are you including Magnetic Crush?
It's not a Brotherhood card. It's
not a Brotherhood card.
It's a Magneto card. It's D tier.
You just don't like. It's a one-way recalibration matrix, which is cool. It's just that Brotherhood do not have the room at all for this kind of thing.
No, just not at all in the slightest. So many better cards that you can take than this one, and for your big characters that need it, you'll have them in reroll position anyway because it's Magneto and you bring people up. Scarlet Witch, I mean, she doesn't really care about rerolls that much because unless you really whiff, she's got a 5 out of 8 chance of getting a
Also,
success.
Books of Truth specifies that like you reroll everything, including skulls. If it didn't include skulls, that could actually be good on Wanda.
It could,
But
yeah.
because you roll like a couple of skulls and you're like, oh well, I got nothing else with the rest of these. I'm gonna re-roll them, but I'm gonna the skulls so I know they're there. But, like that's not an option with this card.
No,
And
not at
like
all.
this card is obviously good with large dice pools, but like the people with large dice pools are Magneto, who has his own rerolls, Wanda, who doesn't necessarily want to reroll her skulls, and like Juggernaut, who probably doesn't have the power to use it because he's been like knocking people about.
He's spending power on other stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, don't see any value in it personally. I just want to say, guys, is that because we talk about this a lot. These are just our opinions, okay?
No, it's not, Rich. This is law.
Quinn, stop it. No, but it is like if
telling
you
the truth, damn it.
look, if you like these cards, take them. But these are just our opinions on how good certain things are. To me, my X-Men, it's a worse version of Avengers Assemble. But if you're playing X-Men, you can't take Avengers Assemble. So this is all you've got.
No. If it was all you got, this would be a good card.
That would be a good card, yeah. It goes in your 10. Does it automatically go in your squad, Quinn?
Probably not. There are definitely some plays that you can do with this card, but you have to remember that, like, you're paying all the power for this off of your leader in X-Men, and the leaders in X-Men aren't exactly known for generating all the power in the world.
Yes, yeah, that's the big difference there, isn't it? And it's towards them as well, which
is very limiting,
especially if it's Storm. Like she's not going to be
run backwards. Which
yeah.
Of course, there are situations where that's good, but
which if you've got an objective token and you want to move people away and that kind of thing, then potentially.
And like you want to get people into out of range 2 so they get cover, stuff like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
or in a nice beam position or something like that. But
this card is always going to get compared to Avengers Assemble, and it's never going to be as good. But in X-Men, this is probably second best card they have.
It's going in your 10. It's going in your 10. Okay, Quinn. Vibranium shielding from Wakanda. Couple of other stipulations in here as well. Obviously, it's got to be either Black Panther or Shuri that pay for the card. What are your thoughts on it?
It's cool. Invulnerability is a really valuable thing to have, but equally, these two characters are spending power on other stuff all the time. It can be really nice to just be like, okay, I'm going to make Panther more unkillable this round and just pay 1 for it and be like, Panther gets invulnerable this round. And he's stood on your back point and he's counting blanks on everything and you're just going to have a really tough time doing anything to him.
Yeah, you're unlikely to get any damage through on him, aren't you? Maybe a bit of Mystic or something, but...
Yeah.
So I think it probably goes in your 10 as a Wakanda player. I think, actually saying that now, Wakanda... probably going to be dual affiliation.
Wakanda have pretty much always been a faction that's been dual affiliated with someone else. I think that is where they still remain. I think you consider this card, but I don't think I think this is a C tier, honestly. There are situations where it's good, but once again, this is this is sort of a judgment call when you're making the list rather than a judgment call when you're sitting down to play the game, right?
Yeah, you're probably right. You are probably right. On to the next one, which is, I don't know how many into Convocation now, quite a lot.
Rich is now dead. This is his AI consciousness that has been uploaded to the quantum net.
Wand of Watum, Elemental Blast. Basically, it gives you access to the ability or to the attack. Range 5, 7 damage. And on a wild, they gain Incinerate, Shock, and Slow. Or you can do some other things with it as well. So you get to reroll 2 dice in defense, and you get to use a superpower twice that you'd normally be limited to only being able to use it once per turn. What are your thoughts on this one, Quinn?
Like each of the three effects it does is cool, but like the question I have to ask is it worth one of your 5 slots, right? Because like
Yeah,
that attack, pretty cool. If you get the wild, great. If that attack let you generate power, it'd be incredible.
it'd be amazing. Yeah, it'd be absolutely amazing.
Like re-rolling 2 defense dice for a round, really good. But that depends on like priority control of what, like, if you get to activate first. If you do, like, sure, that can be cool, but equally, why not just kill the thing that's threatening you? Um, like, and sure, rerolls are good, but the majority of Convocation characters that you're going to be looking at playing this on have probably already got rerolls of some form.
Yeah.
Like Ancient One, both forms of Strange. It could be good on like Voodoo, but like,
Yeah.
does Voodoo really need to be tankier?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think it's probably. I think as we've put a lot of the other Convocation ones, it's probably in that sort of B C type tier.
Yeah, I think it's probably B.
Yeah.
Like once again, like Convocation, like there are just so many cards. Like
Yeah, you got so many to
when
choose
you're
from.
looking at this as a Convocation player, you're like, okay, I'm taking Ironbound Book, and what else is good? Like playing a Poldark is pretty good. Like for rerolls, Orb of Agamotto, really good for repositioning. Like there are just so many different considerations you have to make that like this card feels like it's kind of meh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. I get that.
Because also, like, you're paying, like, for the final part of it as well, you're paying 2 power to be able to do a superpower again, right?
But you have to still pay for the power for the
Yeah, exactly.
superpower.
Like, how often are you actually going to be able to afford doing that superpower
Yeah.
twice if you've paid 2 for this card?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't have it in front of me. It'd be interesting to see how many Convocation characters have superpowers they can only use once, like, and what they are, because obviously that would lean into the value of
Yeah,
it. But
I
I think
can't remember, but I do believe that
they've got quite a few. They've got quite a
they've
few,
got
but
quite a few. The one that I remember like considering was Wong's Blessing of the Shanty, and I did ask on the rules forum, and I'm fairly certain the answer was no. You can't target the same person twice because of this card.
okay, yeah, because it's not
Because
targeting, is it?
it's a different thing as using it again, whereas using it on the same person again, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Quinn, another card that's going straight up to S tier is
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda Forever, right? It's
You
their
know what
best.
I mean?
It's their best card.
I
They
mean,
get
yeah,
they get
like,
less value from this than they do
than like Sun's doing
from
Siege,
Midnight
right?
Suns.
Yeah.
But if you're running a Killmonger in your list, I think the value of this goes up significantly.
Getting another Killmonger attack on the Usurp the Throne turn can be insane. But
Yeah.
also, like, if you're running against a list that has like size 3 characters max, you basically play Old Wakanda, which is really good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then the last one on our list is Web Barrier. Web Warriors. I see this being played quite a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, I see. I've seen it being played quite a lot when I've come up against Web Warriors.
I don't think I've ever seen this card played.
Really?
Yeah, like I genuinely cannot recall an instance of seeing this card played.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a weird one to take. I don't think it's useless. It's definitely not a useless card, but I think it's definitely one that you
You need a game
a
plan for
game
it,
plan
right?
for it. So I think therefore it sits in that C tier.
I think you consider it, but I think probably the best thing about this card is the fact that the 2 people that play it can't be pushed or thrown.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Which as we've just gone over is quite good. It's quite
Really
good.
good. Like, that's really great on style, but obviously this is 2 characters rather than your entire team, pretty much.
Yeah,
Like, there is a difference there, but like,
a
this
slight
can
difference. Yeah,
this could lead to some like cool stuff. Like, if you're in the late stages of a game and you need to stop someone from getting somewhere, right?
yeah, yeah. Again, there's some value in it. Again, I think it's going to be one of those where you need to know what you're coming up against
Yeah.
beforehand. It's not an auto include. as one of your 10, most definitely. But there we go, guys. That is let's just pump back over to this. That is our. I gather, Quinn, what's going to be a series of videos now, because we've got the rest of the 90,000
Yay.
tactics cards to go through. But just, that's our view, guys, on each of the tactics cards for each affiliation, and whether or not you should be including them in your squad.
Just
in your
remember,
roster.
everyone at home, all of my views are objectively correct, and if you think otherwise, you're wrong.
Just remember, people, that the views and opinions expressed by Quinn do not necessarily reflect that of Rich Midgame.
I mean, they definitely do. It's just that you don't have the balls to say them.
Guys, hopefully you've enjoyed that. Let me know down in the comment section below if you've had success with any of these cards. Especially, I'm really intrigued, Quinn, if there's Convocation players out there who are going to say to us, "Oh no, this one is really good," or if there are if there are cards that we've put down in C and D where somebody goes, "Actually, guys, I use this in this situation,
Yeah,
and it can be really good."
Someone comes up with some crazy play involving anger management.
Yeah, absolutely. But let us know down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, check out the Discord. It's free. There's no Patreon. It's free. Just go over. It's free. Free Discord, guys. And also, if you haven't checked out our merch store yet, there's a whole bunch of really cool MCP-inspired merch on there as well. So, again, link down in the description below. And it leaves me with just enough time, as always, to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
See you.